This one. So, willkommen beim Palästina Kongress. Ich werde jetzt die Auflagen für diese Veranstaltung verlesen. So, liebes Publikum, wie man sieht, ist es nicht gelungen, diesen Kongress zu verbieten oder zu verhindern. Trotz vieler Versuche und trotz Maßnahmen, die weitergehen. Aber ich werde diese Auflagen jetzt verlesen, damit sich alle schön an die Regeln halten. Ich werde sie erst auf Deutsch und dann auf Englisch verlesen und dann wird mein lieber Genosse hier sie auf Arabisch vorlesen. Es ist untersagt, während der Dauer der Versammlung Gegenstände, insbesondere Fahnen, Puppen und ähnliche Gegenstände, zu verbrennen. Es ist untersagt, Gewalttaten, die darauf gerichtet waren oder sind, Menschen zu töten, zu verletzen oder zu entführen, in Wort, Bild oder Schrift zu verherrlichen oder gutzuheißen, beziehungsweise zu solchen Taten aufzufordern.
Dann muss die Polizei raus!
Untersagt sind das Rufen. Also wenn ihr mich machen lässt, dann ist es schneller vorbei. Untersagt sind das Rufen oder Aussprechen und Darstellen von Parolen, die gegenüber Teilen oder Einzelnen einer ethnischen oder religiösen Gruppe eher verletzend sind. Zum Hass aufrufen bzw. die Menschenwürde anderer beeinträchtigen sowie diffamierende Äußerungen. Zudem sind Äußerungen untersagt, die eine Vernichtung des Staates Israel und oder seiner BewohnerInnen propagieren oder in sonstiger Weise geeignet sind, Gewaltbereitschaft zu vermitteln. Untersagt ist jede Äußerung, die ein Werben für die Volksfront zur Befreiung Palästinas, die Partei der Befreiung, das Solidaritätsnetzwerk palästinensischer Gefangener, Palestinian Prisoner Solidarity Network Samidun, sowie für die Bewegung des islamischen Widerstands, Hamas, und diesen Gruppierungen nahestehende Organisationen beinhaltet. Kennzeichen, Symbole oder Embleme dieser Organisation dürfen weder auf Fahnen und Transparenten noch an der Kleidung der Teilnehmenden oder auf sonstige Weise gezeigt werden. Dies gilt auch für Kennzeichen, Symbole oder Embleme von Unter- oder Partnerorganisationen der PFLP, Hizb ut-Tahrir, Samidun sowie der Hamas, zum Beispiel der Qassam-Brigaden. So. It is forbidden for the duration of this event to burn any objects, especially flags, dolls, or similar items. It is forbidden to glorify or support acts of violence intended to kill, injure, or kidnap persons, whether in word, in pictures, or in writing. It is also forbidden to shout or write slogans that harm the personal honor of groups or individuals of an ethnic or religious population, to stir up, to incite hate, or to impair the dignity of others, or to make defamatory statements. In addition, it is forbidden to make statements that propagate the destruction of the state of Israel and or its inhabitants, or are otherwise suitable to convey violent intent. It is forbidden to make any statement promoting the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, PFLP, the Party of Liberation, Hizb ut-Tahrir, the Samadun Palestinian Solidarity Network, as well as the Movement of Islamic Resistance, Hamas, and any organizations connected to these groups. Symbols or emblems of these organizations must neither be shown on flags or posters or on the clothes of participants or in any other way. This also applies to emblems or symbols of organizations connected to or subordinate to the PFLP, HUT, Samadun, or Hamas, such as the Al-Qassam brigades. So.
Kostenbeteiligung der Staatskasse.
Danke. Also ab 1 und dann bis Ende von 3.
ممنوع خلال هذا الاجتماع wir werden jetzt auf Arabisch machen, damit auch die Arabischsprachigen das auch verstehen. ممنوع في خلال هذا الاجتماع حرق الأعلام أو الألعاب الأطفال أو أي شيء في خلال هذا الاجتماع ممنوع الحرق. ممنوع الكلام أو ممنوع الكلام عن ضرب أو خطف أو حرق أو قتل ناس من خلال الكلام أو من خلال الصورة أو من خلال الكتابة وممنوع الكلام عنهم.
Lange Sätze.
Sehr lange Sätze. ممنوع الهتافات التي تتكلم عن حرق الناس أو قطفهم أو حرقهم أو قتلهم أو خصوصا عن أي ديانات أو جروبات من الناس. ممنوع إنه نحكي عن الكره ناس ثانيين. ممنوع نحكي أي كلام. ترجمته هي نفسها بالعربي. أوكي بارك الله. علاوة على ذلك يحظر تمجيد أو التغاطي بالقوة أو الصورة أو الكتابة عن أعمال العنف التي تهدف إلى قتل أو جرح أو اختطاف أشخاص أو الدعوة إلى مثل هذا الأعمال. يحظر النطق وعرض الشعارات التي تشهر بأجزاء أو أفراد من مجموعات عرقية أو دينية والتي تحرض على الكراهية أو تمس بالكرامة الإنسانية للآخرين فضلا عن التصريحات التشهيرية. بالإضافة إلى ذلك يمنع نشر إعلانات عن الجبهة يمنع نشر أي إعلان عن الجبهة الشعبية لتحرير فلسطين وحزب التحرير، شبكة التضامن مع الأسرى الفلسطينيين صامدون، وكذلك حركة المقاومة الإسلامية حماس ومنظمات قريبة من هذه الجماعات. ولا يجوز عرض علامات رموز أو شعارات هذه المنظمات على الأعلام واللافتات أو على ملابس المشاركين، وينطبق هذا أيضا على العلامات والرموز والشعارات الخاصة بالمنظمات الفرعية أو الشريكية أو الشريكة للجبهة الشعبية لتحرير فلسطين وحزب التحرير وصامدون وحماس مثل كتائب القسام. Darf ich noch mal sehen?
Genau, nach Al-Qassam, das war's.
Ja, okay. Das war's. شكرا.
Okay.
Dear comrades, dear friends, we greet our comrades in Palestine who are struggling for liberation, against oppression, and against an ongoing genocide. We greet the comrades all over the world, be it in Washington, be it in London, be it in Paris, be it in Delhi, be it in Brasilia, be it everywhere around the world, to stand up for freedom and for liberation of the Palestinians and of humankind. We are the Palästina Kongress. We accuse the Israeli state of carrying out genocide. And we accuse the German government of supporting, of abetting, of making possible this genocide, an ongoing genocide from 1948 till 2024. But we resist. We salute all those resist, whether they be in Palestine or in all those places we have named. We've kept resisting in Germany under the most severe circumstances, all kinds of repressions. But we are unbroken. And this is a good sign. We will hold those responsible accountable. Today we accuse them. Tomorrow we will hold them accountable. And we pledge this. We greet all the comrades who have made it into this hall. We greet the comrades who are standing outside of the hall. We greet those all across the world who are watching. We salute you and we say shame to the German government, who has made everything to stop this Congress, who have done things that would have made Putin proud. And would have made Netanyahu proud. In fact, all authoritarian regimes all across the world, the German government has made them proud with what they've done. And they have brought shame on themselves. They have raided the houses of people organizing a Congress accusing the German government of genocide. They have tried everything to stop this Congress in advance. They have blocked the bank account of one of the most important anti-Zionist Jewish organizations in Germany, the Jüdische Stimme, through a German bank that has been complicit in the Shoah and the Holocaust. Shame on you. They have organized campaigns of the most vicious slander in the last month and in the last weeks against Palestinians, against those who stand up for human rights and for democracy, and against the organizers of the Palästina Kongress. But still we are here today and we have made it possible together, because solidarity cannot be broken, whatever a state tries to do, if we stay steadfast. And the latest thing that I have attempted to do is not just to reduce the number of participants of originally 800 people down to 250 people. And I think it's safe to say that even that is probably not true, and there is fewer people in the room, because the police and the German state is so petty that they don't even want 10, 20, 30 people more in the room that they had promised. And we say shame on the German state and the German border regime for disallowing Ghassan Abu Sitta to come from Glasgow, who is a survivor, who was in Gaza as a surgeon during the first days of the genocide, who has been stopped by the German border regime. And we will not just tear down the apartheid walls, we promise we will tear down all the imperialist walls all across the globe. And we also know that we can survive because our solidarity is strong, and our solidarity will show to be strong with the courageous people who are running this place, the elegants, who have been pressured by criminal police for days, who have been put under immense mental pressure today, who have been threatened that their business might collapse. We say these comrades who are organizing usually weddings here and celebrations, today we will accuse the German government of genocide, but we will also celebrate all the happy and the joyful moments together with them, and we will fight any claim or any charge that the German state or German officials will bring against them, and we will celebrate our weddings. We will celebrate all the joyful moments that we have as a liberation movement together with them. This we promise. We do not leave behind anyone who supports us, whether they have been supporting the freedom for Palestine since 1948, for a couple of months, or since yesterday. We stand together. We will accuse the German government of complicity in genocide, and we will do this over the next 3 days, and we will outline how we will break the power of an apartheid, of a colonial regime, and how we will break the power of the German state and the German politicians and all those little helpers that we from German history know well too much. All those little helpers, be they from the Kriminalamt sitting there in the back, be they from the prosecution sitting there in the back, be they all these policemen who we've seen on the streets of Berlin, of Germany, beating up minors, beating up old people, beating up everyone who wasn't bowing down. And we will not bow down, we will accuse you and we will hold you accountable. This we promise you. Hoch die internationale Solidarität. Lang lebe Palästina. Hoch der Palästina Kongress. Wir klagen an.
Very much for the chantings and the opening speech, and I welcome you to our very first panel session. Over 76 years of colonization of Palestine, what is the situation on site? I'm Jacqueline, I'm moderating that panel, but before we start, I have to make some technical announcements. First of all, we ask that you do not make any film or sound recordings of the events. The presentations are recorded by our video and camera team. We try our best that the Congress is a safe place for all participants. And if you're not wanting to be filmed or to be sure that you're not filmed, we say this corner there is a good place to be. Also, we ask you that you read our awareness guidelines, which you find in German and English at several places. They are printed out in the yellow, on the yellow paper, and for example, they're at the wall. During the panels, please do not interrupt the speakers and be sure that your mobile is on silent mode. For this panel, both of our guests will give an introduction around 20-25 minutes, but time in general is very limited, as you have maybe noticed. So we only have a room for some questions. There will be panels and workshops and also networking events where you have more room for discussion. We are really, really sorry for this, but due to the state repression, we have no much time here. We have to go on in our timetable, but we also feel that it's very necessary to give the speakers the room and space which they prepared for. And with that, I'm very happy and honored to present you Hebh Jamal. She's a Palestinian journalist and exposes in her work the anti-Palestinian racism of German politics, media, and judiciary. Her journalism, but also her activism, has made her a central voice in the movement, not just in the US, but also in Germany. Also, we are very lucky that Salman Abu Sita is going to speak. He will not come in person. He has prepared a video statement, and he's a Palestinian scholar and world-renowned expert on the Nakba. He outlined a practical plan to implement the right of return for Palestinian refugees, and he's also well known for mapping Palestine. With that, I'll hand over to Hebh Jamal.
We'll start at some point today.
We'll start at some point, yeah. Kannst du nochmal? Eine Stelle wurde scheinbar nicht irgendwie vorgelesen. Kannst du einfach nochmal?
Alles oder nur die Stelle?
Nein, also das Ganze nochmal bis Qassam. Weil es hat eine Stelle irgendwie, jemand da über Vernichtung des Staates Israel.
So, wir müssen.
Nochmal von vorne.
Wir machen nochmal von vorne.
Wir werden einfach nochmal schnell die Auflagen auf Arabisch verlesen, weil scheinbar ein Satz aus Versehen übersprungen wurde.
Ja. Ist nicht mein Fehler, ist der Fehler der Polizei. Die hätten das übersetzen müssen. So. يمنع حرق الأشياء وخاصة الأعلام والدماء والأشياء المشابهة في الأماكن العامة أثناء مدة الاجتماع. ثانيا، علاوة على ذلك يحظر تمجيد أو التغاطي بالقوة أو الصورة أو الكتابة عن أعلام العنف التي تهدف إلى قتل أو جرح أو اختطاف أشخاص أو الدعوة إلى مثل هذه الأعمال. يحظر النطق وعرض الشعارات التي تشير بأجزاء أو أفراد من مجموعة عرقية أو دينية والتي تحرض على الكراهية أو تمس بالكرامة الإنسانية للآخرين فضلا عن التصريحات التشهيرية. تناخ. بالإضافة إلى ذلك تحظر التصريحات التي تدعو إلى تدمير دولة إسرائيل وسكانها. التي من المحتمل أن تعبر عن الرغبة في استخدام العنف. ثالثا، يمنع نشر أي إعلان من الجبهة الشعبية لتحرير فلسطين وحزب التحرير شبكة التضامن مع الأسرى الفلسطينيين صامدون وكذلك حركة المقاومة الإسلامية حماس ومنظمات قريبة من هذه الجماعات. ولا يجوز عرض علامات رموز أو شعارات هذه المنظمات على الأعلام واللافتات أو على ملابس المشاركين. وينطبق هذا أيضا على العلامات والرموز والشعارات الخاصة بالمنظمات الفرعية أو الشريكة للجبهة الشعبية لتحرير فلسطين وحزب التحرير وصامدون وحماس مثل كتاب القسام. رابعا، يجب الإعلان.
Ja, ist das in Ordnung mit dem Text?
Shame on you!
Alles in Ordnung mit dem Text jetzt? Gut, okay. Now, finally.
I had hello everyone. When I was writing my speech, I had a kind of a joke in here. You kind of look to your left, look to your right. Maybe you'll find an undercover police officer. I have to wipe that from my speech. But in all seriousness, the fact that we are able to make this Congress happen despite everything that has gone on today is an act of resistance. And I want to say to Germany, to the state media who have infiltrated our spaces, you are an embarrassment to the world. The international community does not take this country seriously. The international community sees how complicit you are in genocide. And with that, I'll start my speech. May marks 76 years since the Palestinian Nakba. 76 years of colonization, of forced exile, 76 years of refugee camps, of occupation, of apartheid. However, next month also marks 76 years of resilience, 76 years of a struggle for liberation. The Palestinian political and revolutionary thought developed despite extreme circumstances. For how can a singular people derived from one history and have different realities, whether they exist in the camps of Lebanon, in Gaza, and in Kuwait, all agree on the principles of liberation and identity? Analyzed by Edward Said, we Palestinians are struggling for our self-determination, yet we have no place, no physical terrain on which to conduct our struggle. Said says in The Question of Palestine that we are Arab, and yet not simply Arab. We are exiles and yet tolerated guests in some countries of our exile. We can speak at the United Nations of our own problems, yet only as observers. On no national group has its oppressor spoken so long and loud about its political and cultural non-existence, even while this non-people demonstrates, declaims, and fights its oppressor daily. We exist, yet fail to truly exist. It is through this dichotomy in which the definition of what it means to be Palestinian was formed. To be a Palestinian means to exist despite ... Despite efforts at our annihilation, despite efforts of our displacement, and despite efforts of our silencing. I'm not going to speak about the history of the Palestinian struggle as Dr. Salman Abu Sitta plans to highlight it effectively over the course of his presentation. Instead, I want to tell you about a motif in my favorite story, written by Ghassan Kanafani. In his novella, Men in the Sun, Kanafani concludes his novel with the death of 3 Palestinians who paid a smuggler to take them from Iraq to Kuwait in hopes of a better life. Instead, they died hiding in a water tank under the blazing sun at a routine checkpoint that took longer than usual. Their lifeless bodies are then thrown in a garbage heap. As the smuggler drives off, he asks, "Why didn't they knock on the sides of the tank? Why didn't you knock on the sides of the tank? Why didn't you say anything? Why?" Many, including myself, have interpreted this ending of the novella as a plea to us by Ghassan Kanafani to not forget our liberation struggle and focus on our own selves and safety as individuals. He wanted us to break the chains of individual thought and instead aim to not be passive about our situation, about our exile, and about the genocide taking place against our people with our tax dollars. The end of the novella was a plea to demand your reality as a Palestinian to change, to stay, to face the brunt of state repression, to say something, to knock on the sides of the tank. Last year, I gave a speech here in Berlin on the question of whether Israel was a democratic state, especially since there were these pro-democracy protests going on at the time. What I said then, and what I will say now, is that Israel is unequivocally a fascist settler colony ever since its inception. My family's village of Jimzu in the Lid district of 48 Palestine was ethnically cleansed on July 9th, 1948 under Operation Danny. Lieutenant Moshe Dayan, who then became Israel's defense minister, gave the order to conquer all of Lid and Ramla and all of the villages that inhabited the region. Moshe Dayan's intentions from the start was to depopulate Jimzu and the surrounding villages, quote unquote, torching everything that can be burned. My great-grandfather, Jamal, sneaked into his village after the military operation was over. He recalled that the remains of dead people were scattered all around the village, unburied. It's as if their bodies was dismembered by wild dogs, my great-grandfather said. My great-grandfather made it a point to remember Moshe Dayan's words. And in fact, he read Theodore Herzl's diary when he said that the process of expropriation and the removal of the poor Arabs must be carried out discreetly and circumspectly. And we made it to a point to remember how the Jewish National Fund went even further by destroying our homes than planting trees on top of our cemeteries. Quote unquote, it must be clear that there is no room in the country for both peoples. If the Arabs leave it, the country will become wide and spacious for us. The only solution is a land of Israel without Arabs, the director Joseph White said. Last year, well before October 7th, I wrote that the call for genocide has always been said out loud. It has been just masked by a neoliberal facade because democracy and freedom was working for some. Well, now what we have seen is that Israel has entered its final stages of fascism, conducting a genocide against 2.2 million people. Israeli fascism is no longer discreet nor circumspect. Rather, it is loud, violent, and televised. The destruction of my ancestral home of Jimzu 76 years ago and the murder of 33,000 people exists from the same political thought, ideology, and colonialist framework of today. However, I have to be honest, I did not anticipate the sheer horror of what is taking place both in Gaza and here in Germany. Later on in the conference on Sunday, you will hear the stories of my husband and his family who are trying to survive the barbarity of this genocide if they are not already murdered. One of the people who he will speak about is his cousin Sema, who he lived with. Sema Abdel Hadi was murdered on February 9th in her home in Deir al-Balah. She was She was killed alongside her brother, mother, grandfather, and 20 other members of her family. She was someone I cherish deeply. At only 14 years old, Sema wanted to see the world. She wanted to be a doctor. She loved little kids and took care of my son Malik the whole duration of our stay in Gaza back in 2022. To have the mental capacity to understand that her life was cut short due to the German-funded bombs, and at the same time not be able to say that Israel does in fact murder children like Sema is almost too much to bear. Never in my life did I expect the possibility that contextualizing, explaining, or protesting the realities of the Palestinian people could be a criminal act. See, in 2008, when Germany decided to categorize Israel's national security as their reason of state, it preemptively signed off on the murder of Sema and 14,000 children like her. This country turned into the propaganda wing of the Israeli state itself, and it did not need the infiltration of super PACs and lobbies like how it exists in the US to do so. No, see, what happens in Germany is that Israel solves a unique problem for the German state. A country that killed 6 million Jewish people during the Holocaust now needs to emerge and prove itself to the free world as reformed, changed, and democratic. Instead of facing their history of colonization and the politics of dehumanization that made the Holocaust even possible, they took a shortcut. Agree and support unconditionally everything a foreign state says and does, if that state claims to be representative of Jewish people worldwide. In order to do this, to take this shortcut, to believe in the mission of Zionism, they first have to silence, censor, sideline, and criminalize the Palestinian identity in ways no other country except the state of Israel have done before. We are a pesky nuisance that gets in their way of their tactical response to the Holocaust, which is, of course, material and ideological support for Israel. This state instead aims to control Palestinians and pro-Palestinian activists and people and suck them into the world of condemnation politics, a clear trap that we cannot fall into. They're not asking you to show empathy for another people. It is an attempt to silence, censor, and obstruct conversations that lead to the liberation of the Palestinian people. Words become dangerous, protesting becomes dangerous, attending a Congress becomes dangerous. Even Jewish people themselves become dangerous if they question, criticize, and fight back against Israel and demand their identity not to be conflated with Zionism, a political colonial ideology. We've seen this week the targeting of our fellow comrades in Jüdische Stimme whose bank accounts were frozen by the Bank Berliner Sparkasse in the latest attempts to sabotage this conference. It is here that I want to thank my Jewish brothers and sisters who are fighting alongside us in the pivotal and historic moment in our collective history. This McCarthyism is creeping on every single one of us. This morning, I was informed that the police wrote a report about me due to my invitation to this Congress and included my work as a journalist in my social media posts on and before on October 7th, attempting to contextualize and explain what was happening around us. But for this police state, context is the enemy. But what gets me is that they had to scroll. The police had to scroll through hundreds and hundreds of posts detailing evidence of Israeli massacres, posts about the reality of my husband's family, posts about their murders, about the destruction of our home, posts about the raids and bombings of hospitals, schools, and infrastructure that exists in Gaza, to be able to make their case, to be able to write this document. They say, while I don't say anything clearly anti-Semitic, quote unquote, this is in fact what I do mean. And of course, it is the idea that I'm aiming for the destruction of the state of Israel. As a non-German speaker, my German vocabulary is more advanced than some. I don't know how to really go to a grocery store and talk to a server, but the words that I do know, Volksverhetzung, Existenzrecht, and of course you can't forget, Anzeige, the one that we, a lot of here get. Yeah. We laugh, but it is incredibly concerning the level of insecurity that this police state has, that the most basic resemblance of free speech can feel like a threat. On Friday, when I was at a protest and when it was over, I quickly realized that on my way home, I was being followed by undercover police. I demanded to know why they were following me, and they responded by saying that they just wanted to see what I do. I acted casual at first, laughing with my friends, some of them here, who were there with me. But we managed to get away from them and I returned home safely. However, it was when the hours went by, did I truly understand the extent of this interaction. My family is dying. I went to a protest this reality and was intimidated and treated as a criminal. In all honesty, I broke down that day, for I realized that we are not only demanding an end to this genocide, but we are fighting an institution that is hell-bent on the psychological warfare against activists and supporters of the Palestinian people, all in an attempt to scare and silence us into submission. The title of this talk, of attempting to understand 76 years of colonization and asking what the situation is on the ground, is trying to understand that what we are doing here right now in Berlin at the Palästina Kongress, this is the result of 76 years of colonization, our presence here, and our attempt to try and answer the questions of how we move forward, how we break free and fight for material, substantial change in our homes. In 2017, I had the privilege, and yes, this may be a little bit of a flex, to speak on the same panel as Angela Davis in New York City. In this panel, we attempted to tie the liberation struggles of Black people in America and within the prison industrial complex with the realities of Palestinians living under occupation. It was there I was exposed to connecting international movements to Palestinian liberation. It was there that I saw that the security systems that targeted Black activists in Ferguson were manufactured by state-owned companies in Israel, and arms sold to India from Israel were used to occupy and control Kashmir. And it was there I realized that those same weapons used to kill Palestinians were used by the Myanmar government to conduct a genocide against the Rohingya Muslims. And it wasn't that there was some international conspiracy that all points to Israel. No, what I understood from listening to someone like Angela Davis is that oppressors assist each other in controlling their populations, and Western hegemony is built through the subjugation and is in an internal cycle of keeping the downtrodden subdued. And it is here that I'd like to quote from her directly. Angela Davis says in her book, regimes of racial segregation were not disestablished because of the work of leaders and presidents and legislators, but rather because of the fact that ordinary people adopted a critical stance in the way in which they perceived their relationship to reality. Social realities that may have appeared inalterable, impenetrable, came to be viewed as malleable and transformable. And people learned how to imagine what it might mean to live in a world that was not so exclusively governed by the principle of white supremacy. This collective consciousness emerged within the context of social struggles. Here in Germany, the reason why there are hundreds of police, I wrote outside, but inside, and an intense state effort to silence us is because this social reality is malleable and transformable. The reason we're followed home by undercover police, beaten at protests and doxxed by the media is because we have developed a collective consciousness against the principle of white supremacy. It is because we actually understand how genocides of the past were able to happen, can we confidently take a stand against the genocide of today. The dehumanization, the othering, the miscategorization and slandering of a people first leads to their occupation, but then eventually leads to their deaths. We are not attending an academic conference here today. We are resisting in one of the most powerful ways possible. We are facing the brunt of state repression head on and finally knocking on the sides of the water tank. Thank you, and free Palestine.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much for your introduction, and for all people in the live streams. You cannot see this, yeah, but the whole room is standing up and applauding. So thanks a lot for your very clear and moving introduction. We would now hand over to Salman Abusita. Before you have the possibility to ask questions. This will be possible afterwards. He himself wasn't able to come. Actually, we planned that he takes part via Zoom. He has prepared a video statement, but he wanted to be present for the Q&A. Due to our delay, because of the state repression, this isn't possible anymore. We will play his video statement now.
Thank you for inviting me to Palästina Kongress in Berlin today. Your event is timely, not only because of the running genocide in Gaza, but particularly because of German government's past and present policies. Nobody, absolutely nobody, can ignore what's going on in Gaza today. There is nothing like it in human history. Of course, there have been in history many massacres and atrocities. We have seen their records carved on ancient walls and in old history books. We have read accounts of Nero burning Rome, Hilako Khan burning Tigris, and we have seen many times films and museums about Nazi atrocities in World War II. We have heard about the Rwandan massacres in Africa. But we have never seen before all these atrocities combined on TV daily on our screens. And this savagery enacted before our own eyes daily. We have never seen before these daily scenes, one massacre after another, homes demolished over the heads of the occupants, bodies pulled from under the rubble, surviving child with all his family killed. We have never seen before people deliberately denied food and water, children starved to death and killed when rushing to get food. We have never seen before all means of life systematically destroyed, hospitals, clinics, schools, universities, libraries, ancient monuments, mosques, churches, universities, cemeteries, bakeries, apartment buildings.
The live stream. We ask you to keep calm.
Please, everyone.
We ask you to keep calm.
Be calm, they are embarrassing themselves.
Yes,
Be
please.
calm. We are doing nothing.
Please, everyone, please calm down. Exactly like he said, let them embarrass themselves, okay? Please, everyone sit down so that the media, even the pro-Zionist media, can see what's happening here. Please, everyone sit down so that everyone can see them. Please, and keep calm.
The voice of the victim is silenced, denied, condemned, and vilified. And yet, we see some.
So, for all people in the live stream, the police is standing right in front of us and they ask us to stop the video.
They're even trying to take away this microphone. Wir haben die Pflicht, Leute zu benachrichtigen. Das ist nicht okay. They don't want us to even speak into this microphone, which is not okay. They want to cut off the live stream, which is fine. We don't know right now, it's not fine, but they're also trying to silence people sitting here. And we're just informing everyone that this is a safe space, but they're taking the safe spaces away. Look at this.
No violence!
Hey.
No violence! No violence! No violence!
Please, everyone, keep calm. Please, don't give them any reason to be violent. Ja, aber warum? Warum? Ich versuche. I'm just trying to.
Ich möchte kurz erklären. Ich möchte kurz die Situation erklären. Let me explain the situation, please. Let me explain the situation so that we can resolve this quickly. Would you please all sit down, first of all? Please sit down, everyone, so that we can continue as soon as possible.
Alle bitte erstmal hinsetzen. They are embarrassing themselves. Sit down. Sie blamieren sich selbst.
Soll ich uns hinsetzen?